From a tiny kitchen in Switzerland to one of the biggest companies on earth, Nestlé's journey is not just about food, it's about vision, discipline, and the courage to think bigger than anyone else. What started as one man's simple idea to save lives became a global empire that feeds billions every single day. But behind that success lies a story of struggle, innovation, and powerful business lessons that changed the world forever. The story of Nestlé began in 1867 with a man named Henri Nestlé, a German pharmacist living in a small Swiss town called Vevey. He wasn't a businessman by nature. He was a man of science, driven by one purpose: to solve a problem that was killing thousands of babies across Europe. At that time, infant malnutrition was a deadly crisis. Many babies couldn't be breastfed, and the available substitutes were unsafe. Henri Nestlé saw tragedy around him and decided to find a solution. He worked day and night, experimenting with milk, wheat, and sugar, until he created a formula that could safely feed infants. That product became known as farine lactée, or flour with milk. It was a simple idea with extraordinary impact. Henry's formula saved countless infants and quickly gained attention beyond Switzerland. Mothers began trusting his product, and within months, his name became a symbol of hope. But Henri Nestlé's success didn't come overnight. He struggled to gain trust. Many people doubted the idea of processed baby food. He had to prove that his product worked, that it was safe, and that it could make a difference. He gave samples to doctors, hospitals, and families. Slowly, his credibility grew, and so did his ambition. Henri wasn't just a scientist anymore. He was becoming an entrepreneur. He realized that solving problems was good business, and the best companies are born when passion meets purpose. That principle still defines Nestlé today. Soon, demand for his product exploded. Orders came from France, Germany, and even England. Henri set up production in larger facilities and started building distribution networks. He carefully protected his brand by printing his name, Nestlé, which means little nest, in German, on every package, symbolizing family, safety, and care. That nest logo became one of the most recognized symbols in the world, but at that time, it was just a small promise from one man to his customers that his product would always be made with care. By the late 1870s, Nestlé had become an international business. But success came with challenges. Competitors appeared, copying his formula and trying to take his market. Instead of fighting with words, Henri fought with innovation. He improved his product, strengthened his supply chains, and made sure quality never dropped. When he finally retired, he sold his company to 3 trusted business partners. But he left them with one simple philosophy: adapt, improve, and serve. Those words became the foundation of the Nestlé empire. The new owners understood that Henry's product was just the beginning. They expanded the business beyond baby food, exploring dairy, chocolate, and condensed milk. Around the same time, another Swiss company called Anglo-Swiss Condensed Milk Company was also growing fast. The two became rivals in the global market, each trying to dominate the milk industry. Competition pushed both to innovate. They built factories in new countries and developed better production techniques. But wars, economic changes, and global expansion created constant challenges. Still, Nestlé survived every crisis because it never stopped evolving. In 1905, a historic moment arrived. The two rival companies merged, forming the Nestlé and Anglo-Swiss Milk Company. It was a powerful partnership that changed everything. Together, they combined technology, capital, and talent, creating one of the world's first true multinational corporations. This merger didn't just expand Nestlé's size, it transformed its identity. The company began seeing itself not just as a manufacturer, but as a mission-driven organization dedicated to improving lives through food and nutrition. That mindset still drives Nestlé's strategy today. When World War I began in 1914, Nestlé faced one of its greatest challenges. Supplies were disrupted, and exporting became nearly impossible. But instead of collapsing, Nestlé adapted. It moved production closer to its markets, opening factories in the United States, Australia, and South America. That single decision, producing locally instead of depending on exports, saved the company and built the foundation for its global model. Today, Nestlé operates in almost every country using that same philosophy: stay close to the people you serve. After the war, the demand for dairy products surged. Nestlé used that momentum to expand into chocolate, coffee, and cereals. It bought small local brands and turned them into global names. The 1920s and 1930s became decades of massive growth, but also of bold risk-taking. Then came another crisis, World War II. Once again, global trade was shattered. Factories were destroyed, and resources were limited. Yet Nestlé proved something extraordinary. Real success doesn't come from avoiding problems. It comes from adapting faster than anyone else. While others shut down, Nestlé focused on research and innovation. The company worked on new preservation methods and developed products that could last longer in harsh conditions. Out of that period of struggle came one of its most iconic inventions, Nescafé, the world's first instant coffee. Launched in 1938, Nescafé became a miracle product. It was easy to make, affordable, and it didn't spoil. During the war, soldiers around the world drank Nescafé for energy and comfort. When peace returned, Nescafé remained a favorite, becoming a global phenomenon. That moment changed everything. Nestlé was no longer just a dairy company. It was becoming a food powerhouse. The success of Nescafé proved the company's ability to innovate under pressure. It became a symbol of how creativity and resilience can turn crisis into opportunity. By the 1950s, Nestlé had entered a new era. It diversified into frozen foods, soups, and confectionery. It acquired brands like Maggi, famous for instant soups and seasonings, and Cross and Blackwell, known for sauces and canned foods. These acquisitions weren't random. They were part of a strategy to build a 360-degree food company, one that could meet every type of consumer need. Nestlé's business strategy was based on one golden rule: understand your customer better than anyone else. The company invested heavily in consumer research, studying eating habits across cultures. That helped them develop products that fit local tastes, rather than forcing one global formula on everyone. This adaptability became the secret behind Nestlé's dominance. In India, they created Maggi noodles, which became a cultural icon. In Japan, they introduced unique Kit Kat flavors that matched local preferences. In Africa, they developed fortified foods to combat malnutrition. Every product told the same story: Nestlé listens, learns, and leads. But business growth also brought challenges. As Nestlé expanded, it faced criticism and controversy. In the 1970s, the company was accused of promoting baby formula in poor countries in ways that replaced breastfeeding, leading to serious backlash. It became one of the biggest corporate scandals of the time. Instead of hiding, Nestlé learned. The company revised its marketing policies, adopted strict ethical standards, and increased investment in public health education. It realized that global success requires global responsibility. Through every controversy, Nestlé proved its resilience. The company began building stronger relationships with local governments, farmers, and consumers. It created programs to support sustainable farming and improve food security. Nestlé understood that its future depended not just on profits, but on trust. The 1980s and 1990s brought a new chapter of innovation. Nestlé entered bottled water, pet food, and healthcare nutrition. It bought brands like Perrier, Purina, and Gerber, turning the company into a diversified empire. Its portfolio expanded beyond imagination, reaching homes on every continent. But behind the numbers was a powerful mindset. Nestlé's leaders believed in long-term vision, not short-term gain. They reinvested profits into research, sustainability, and talent development. They built one of the most advanced food science networks in the world, with research centers dedicated to nutrition, health, and well-being. By the 2000s, Nestlé had become more than a food company. It had become a global institution. With over 300,000 employees and products sold in nearly every country, it shaped the way the world ate, drank, and lived. But even with its size, the company never stopped asking one question. How can we do better? That question became Nestlé's greatest strength. It led to innovations like plant-based products, sugar reduction, and recyclable packaging. The company began shifting toward a sustainable future, one where business success and environmental responsibility go hand in hand. When asked about the secret behind Nestlé's longevity, one of its CEOs once said, "We never stop reinventing ourselves. The world changes, and so must we." That simple truth has kept the company relevant for more than 150 years. Nestlé's inspiring journey teaches powerful business lessons. It shows that success isn't built in comfort, it's built in crisis. It reminds entrepreneurs that real leadership isn't about profit, it's about purpose. And most importantly, it proves that no matter how big you become, humility and innovation will always keep you growing. From Henri Nestlé's tiny lab in Switzerland to a trillion-dollar empire that feeds billions, this journey is a masterpiece of vision, adaptation, and courage. It's not just the story of a company, it's the story of human potential at its best. Nestlé's rise was never about luck. It was about vision, seeing what others missed and believing in possibilities others thought were impossible. After the company found its footing with its early food innovations, it was time to think bigger. This wasn't just about selling products anymore. It was about changing how people around the world consumed food, stayed healthy, and trusted brands. Henri Nestlé's founding vision was rooted in one simple but powerful idea: food could save lives. That principle became the company's moral compass for decades. As Nestlé grew, it realized that success wasn't just about feeding people, it was about understanding their changing needs. Every new product, every global expansion, carried that same mission forward. the company learned to listen to consumers instead of just selling to them. In the late 1800s, competition was fierce. Dozens of new brands were fighting for space in the growing food industry. Many companies focused on profit, but Nestlé wanted something deeper. The leadership understood that trust was more valuable than any marketing campaign. People had to believe in what they were buying. And so, Nestlé focused on purity, safety, and consistency, values that quickly made it a household name. While most businesses chased fast money, Nestlé invested in research. The company built laboratories and hired experts in nutrition and food science. This was a bold move at a time when most food manufacturers didn't care much about scientific progress. Nestlé wanted to understand the chemistry of nourishment, not just the economics of selling. That research-first attitude gave it an advantage that still defines the brand today. As the world changed, Nestlé adapted. During the early 1900s, industrialization brought both opportunity and danger. Cities were growing, populations were shifting, and people had less time to cook. Nestlé saw this shift before others did. It began developing convenient, ready-to-use products that met the needs of working families. Instant drinks, milk powders, and quick meals became a new kind of solution. Every success story begins with a decision to go beyond comfort. For Nestlé, that decision came when it started looking beyond Switzerland. The company realized that its products could make a difference far beyond its borders. It wasn't long before Nestlé expanded into Europe, then Asia, Africa, and the Americas. The company didn't just export goods, it exported trust, consistency, and quality. This global mindset wasn't easy to maintain. Every country had different needs, tastes, and challenges. What worked in Europe didn't necessarily work in India or Brazil. But Nestlé was determined to adapt. Instead of forcing its products onto foreign markets, it studied local habits and adjusted recipes accordingly. That flexibility became a signature strength. The 1920s and 1930s brought tough times. The world was going through economic uncertainty, and many companies collapsed. But Nestlé stayed strong because it diversified. It didn't rely on one product or one market. It had learned from history that survival depended on adaptation. So, while other firms were cutting costs, Nestlé was creating opportunities. By the time the Second World War began, Nestlé had built an international network. But war changed everything. Supply chains broke down, factories were destroyed, and global trade froze. Many believed it was the end of multinational expansion. But Nestlé proved them wrong. The company found creative ways to continue operations, shifting production to safer regions and keeping its employees working even in chaos. In the middle of all that uncertainty, Nestlé made one of its most defining moves. It introduced Nescafé. Coffee wasn't a new idea, but instant coffee was revolutionary. Soldiers during the war needed something fast, easy, and energizing. Nestlé's innovation became a lifeline for armies and civilians alike. What started as a survival solution soon became a global favorite. Nescafé became more than a drink, it became a symbol. It represented Nestlé's ability to turn crisis into innovation. The success of instant coffee showed the company's deep understanding of consumer psychology. Nestlé had realized something crucial: convenience wasn't just a trend, it was a new lifestyle. People wanted quality without complexity, and Nestlé delivered exactly that. After the war, the world began rebuilding, and Nestlé expanded like never before. The company entered new territories and introduced products that reflected post-war optimism. From chocolates to baby food to instant meals, Nestlé became part of everyday life. It wasn't just selling items, it was building relationships. Each brand under its umbrella carried a story of trust and reliability. The leadership at Nestlé knew that innovation couldn't stop. Even as the company grew, it kept pushing scientific boundaries. Nestlé's research teams explored new ingredients, healthier alternatives, and better preservation methods. They wanted to make food that not only tasted good but also improved lives. This blend of science and heart became the foundation of modern nutrition brands. One of the reasons for Nestlé's enduring success was its focus on balance. The company wasn't obsessed only with profits or growth. It also cared deeply about sustainability and ethics long before those became buzzwords. Nestlé's leaders believed that a company could be powerful and responsible at the same time. That belief would later shape how the world viewed corporate responsibility. During the 1960s and 1970s, Nestlé faced new competition and new criticism. Globalization had opened markets, but it had also exposed companies to public scrutiny. People began questioning the impact of multinational corporations on local economies. Instead of ignoring these voices, Nestlé learned from them. It refined its strategies and became more transparent. At the same time, Nestlé kept innovating. It expanded into pet food, bottled water, and health products, sectors that would later define its modern empire. Each new move was guided by data, research, and an understanding of human needs. The company wasn't afraid to change direction when necessary. Its flexibility became its armor in a volatile global market. Behind the scenes, Nestlé's leadership culture evolved too. It became less about one man's vision and more about a shared philosophy. Everyone in the company, from executives to factory workers, knew that quality was non-negotiable. This unified mindset gave Nestlé a sense of purpose that transcended business goals. It was now a mission-driven organization. When economic recessions hit or new competitors emerged, Nestlé didn't panic. It analyzed, adapted, and responded with innovation. For every challenge, the company created a product that addressed real-world problems. Whether it was energy bars for busy lifestyles or healthier snacks for children, Nestlé stayed ahead of the curve by anticipating demand instead of chasing it. Even in modern times, the core of Nestlé's success remains its human approach. While technology and automation have changed the world, the company still believes in connecting emotionally with its consumers. The company's journey shows that true leadership means serving people. Nestlé's founders and successors never saw the world as customers. They saw them as communities. By improving one life at a time, they built a global legacy that now spans over 150 years. Nestlé's story teaches a powerful lesson for any entrepreneur or dreamer. Success doesn't come from chasing trends, it comes from understanding human needs. The company's strength wasn't in its size or money, it was in its ability to adapt, innovate, and stay true to its purpose. From its humble beginnings in a small Swiss town to becoming the largest food company in the world, Nestlé's journey was built on discipline, research, and empathy. It's proof that even a small vision can transform into a global phenomenon if it's driven by a genuine desire to make lives better. The foundation was laid, but the real transformation was just beginning. As Nestlé entered the modern era, it faced bigger challenges: technological change, environmental responsibility, and shifting consumer expectations. But history had already proven that this company never backed down from evolution. It embraced it. Nestlé wasn't just following the market anymore. It was shaping it. Every new product, every decision, and every innovation would now reflect decades of experience and a deep understanding of the human spirit. The vision that started with one man had now become a movement that inspired millions. In the next chapter, we'll uncover how Nestlé used modern technology, global partnerships, and bold strategies to redefine what a food company could be in the digital age, and how it continues to inspire businesses worldwide with its blend of innovation and purpose. By the time the world entered the 1980s, Nestlé had already become a global powerhouse. But success, if not handled wisely, can become a trap. Many large corporations of that era started collapsing under the weight of their own comfort. They stopped innovating, stopped listening, and started assuming that size meant safety. Nestlé knew better. The company had survived wars, depressions, and revolutions because it understood one timeless truth: no brand, no matter how big, can stop evolving. The 1980s were years of change, not just for economies but for human behavior. Globalization was gaining speed. The internet was still a dream, but communication between countries was faster than ever. Consumers were becoming more aware, more demanding, and more health conscious. Nestlé realized that the only way to remain trusted was to reinvent itself from the inside out. This reinvention began with a renewed focus on innovation. The company knew that products which worked 50 years ago might not work for the modern consumer. Nestlé's leadership decided to invest heavily in technology and research. It created new global research centers that studied everything from nutrition to packaging. The goal wasn't just to sell food but to redefine what food could do for the body and mind. While most food companies were stuck chasing short-term profits, Nestlé was thinking long-term. The company started asking deep questions. What will people eat in the next 20 years? How can food improve both health and lifestyle? What can Nestlé do to solve world hunger and sustainability challenges? Those weren't marketing slogans. They were the guiding questions that shaped the next phase of Nestlé's evolution. One of the first major changes came from the realization that food was becoming more personal. Consumers wanted products that fit their individual lifestyles, whether they were athletes, children, or older adults. Nestlé began tailoring its brands to these needs. It wasn't about mass production anymore. It was about meaningful nutrition. Take the example of Kit Kat and Nescafé, two of Nestlé's most iconic brands. Instead of keeping them as simple snacks and beverages, Nestlé turned them into global symbols of lifestyle. Kit Kat became a cultural phenomenon through clever marketing campaigns like, "Have a break, have a Kit Kat." It was more than a chocolate bar. It was a reminder to pause and enjoy life. Similarly, Nescafé became a social connector. It wasn't sold as just coffee. It was positioned as a part of conversations, friendships, and relationships. This human-centered branding made Nestlé not just a food company but a part of people's emotional lives. Every campaign reminded consumers that Nestlé understood them better than anyone else. By the late 1980s, Nestlé had acquired multiple global companies, expanding its portfolio beyond imagination. It acquired Carnation, one of the leading milk product companies, and Rowntree, the British confectionery brand that made Smarties and Aero. These acquisitions weren't random, they were strategic. Each one helped Nestlé dominate a new category while maintaining its image as a trusted, family-oriented brand. But with expansion came new responsibilities. The world was changing rapidly. Environmental concerns, corporate accountability, and ethical production were becoming hot topics. People were starting to ask, how does my food reach me? What happens to the environment when big corporations expand? Nestlé understood that it could no longer be just a producer, it had to be a protector too. The leadership launched major sustainability programs aimed at reducing waste, improving water management, and supporting local farmers. The company didn't just talk about corporate responsibility, it invested in it. By building long-term relationships with farmers and small communities, Nestlé ensured that its supply chains were ethical, reliable, and future-ready. This era also saw the rise of health awareness. People were no longer satisfied with tasty products. They wanted food that supported longevity. Nestlé saw this as both a challenge and an opportunity. The company began investing in health sciences, creating divisions focused on medical nutrition, infant formula, and functional foods that help people live better, not just longer. Nestlé's mission was no longer just to feed the world. It was to nourish the future. That meant blending technology with tradition, science with emotion, and profit with purpose. The company started seeing itself as part of a global ecosystem, responsible for human health, environmental balance, and sustainable growth. During the 1990s, the rise of technology brought an entirely new dimension to business. Computers, the Internet, and data analysis became essential tools. Nestlé adapted faster than most corporations. It built advanced data systems to track supply chains, understand consumer trends, and optimize logistics. This was how it maintained its consistency across hundreds of countries and thousands of product lines. The Internet also changed how companies interacted with customers. For the first time, consumers could share opinions instantly. Nestlé didn't shy away from this transparency. Instead, it leaned into it, using feedback to improve its products and communication. The company learned that listening was the most powerful marketing tool of all. As global diets evolved, Nestlé diversified again. It expanded into bottled water, ice cream, and even pet care, understanding that modern families cared about every member, including their pets. Brands like Purina became leaders in the pet nutrition industry, showing that Nestlé could dominate any market it entered. But the true genius of Nestlé's evolution was its adaptability. It didn't rely on one kind of product or audience. Instead, it built a portfolio that could survive any trend. Whether it was a boom in fitness culture, a rise in veganism, or the demand for organic ingredients, Nestlé was always prepared to pivot. Even during global recessions and crises, Nestlé's consistency never faltered. The company's deep roots in research and development helped it anticipate market shifts before they happened. While others reacted, Nestlé was already moving forward. That proactive mindset became its greatest advantage. In the early 2000s, Nestlé officially defined itself as a nutrition, health, and wellness company. This was more than a slogan, it was a declaration of identity. It meant that every product, from coffee to cereal to bottled water, had to contribute positively to human health. The company started reformulating recipes, reducing sugar, salt, and artificial ingredients. It embraced transparency and set new industry standards. But Nestlé's journey wasn't without controversy. Like any giant corporation, it faced criticism, from environmental activists to health organizations. Instead of denying issues, the company chose to face them head-on. It introduced sustainability reports, partnered with NGOs, and made public commitments to environmental goals. These actions didn't erase the criticism entirely, but they proved that Nestlé was willing to learn and change. The digital age brought another challenge: relevance. With new brands emerging daily through social media and startups, staying iconic required reinvention. Nestlé didn't rely solely on its legacy. It began collaborating with tech firms, investing in food startups, and embracing innovation labs that developed plant-based and sustainable alternatives. This move into plant-based foods marked a historic moment for the company. The global population was demanding change: less meat, fewer emissions, more ethical products. Nestlé's scientists began developing plant-based versions of popular meals, snacks, and drinks. The company's ability to innovate at scale while keeping taste intact earned it a new generation of loyal customers. Another area where Nestlé showed leadership was digital marketing. Instead of traditional ads, the brand began connecting emotionally through storytelling. Its campaigns focused on family, togetherness, sustainability, and self-care. These were universal themes that resonated across cultures, proving that the company understood the human side of business. Nestlé's reinvention wasn't just external, it was cultural. Inside the company, a new generation of leaders began promoting diversity, equality, and inclusion. The workforce became more global, more creative, and more connected. Ideas were shared across continents, and innovation became a collective mission rather than an individual pursuit. Through these decades, Nestlé proved something powerful: that even a massive company could remain human. It could grow without losing its values. It could lead without forgetting its roots. Every product that carried the Nestlé name still reflected Henri Nestlé's original dream: to use food as a force for good. As the company entered the 21st century, it stood not just as the largest food brand in the world but as a living example of how purpose-driven business can thrive in any era. Its journey through change, challenge, and reinvention was nothing short of extraordinary. From fighting through wars to mastering global competition, from simple milk formulas to advanced health sciences, Nestlé showed that true success lies in evolution. The brand didn't just follow the world, it helped shape it. And even today, as technology transforms industries and climate change tests the limits of global production, Nestlé continues to adapt. It knows that its real strength isn't in its factories or its finances, it's in its vision. A vision that keeps expanding, learning, and inspiring millions around the world. In the next chapter, we'll explore how Nestlé turned its focus toward innovation in sustainability, digital transformation, and human-centered design, proving that even after more than 150 years, the brand's journey of growth is far from over. By the time the new millennium arrived, Nestlé had already established itself as more than just a company. It had become a global institution. But the leadership knew something critical. Even great empires fade if they stop evolving. The early 2000s brought new challenges and new expectations. Consumers were no longer satisfied with tasty or affordable products alone. They wanted transparency, responsibility, and a deeper connection to the brands they supported. The world was changing fast, and once again, Nestlé had to transform with it. The company began this new chapter by redefining what success meant. For over a century, growth had been measured by profit and market share. But now, Nestlé introduced a broader vision: creating shared value. This idea meant that the company's growth should also benefit society, the environment, and the communities it touched. It wasn't just a marketing phrase, it became the foundation of Nestlé's modern strategy. Creating shared value focused on three key areas: nutrition, water, and rural development. Nestlé realized that to stay relevant, it had to look beyond factories and profits. It had to consider how its operations impacted farmers, families, and future generations. This commitment set it apart from many competitors who still treated corporate responsibility as a side project. For Nestlé, it became the heart of the business. In nutrition, the company launched large-scale programs aimed at improving health awareness. Nestlé started reformulating hundreds of its products to reduce sugar, salt, and saturated fats while adding more whole grains, vitamins, and natural ingredients. It was a massive challenge, but Nestlé understood that staying on top meant being ahead of public health trends. The world's relationship with food was evolving, and Nestlé wanted to guide that evolution responsibly. The company also began focusing on education. Through campaigns and community initiatives, Nestlé encouraged people to make better food choices. It wasn't just selling products, it was sharing knowledge. Millions of families around the world learned how to build healthier diets, often through programs funded and supported by Nestlé. Water became another major focus. As a company that relies heavily on agriculture, Nestlé understood that clean, accessible water was the foundation of life and business. The company invested heavily in sustainable water management systems, helping farmers reduce waste and improve irrigation techniques. It also launched projects to provide clean drinking water to communities in developing countries. This wasn't charity, it was long-term thinking. Nestlé knew that protecting natural resources was essential for future survival. Rural development was perhaps the most personal part of the mission. Nestlé has always depended on farmers for ingredients: milk, cocoa, coffee, and grains. But it also understood that many of these farmers lived in poverty and faced uncertainty. To address this, the company developed partnerships that offered training, financial support, and stable income opportunities. When farmers succeeded, Nestlé succeeded too. This philosophy built trust and loyalty across generations. As climate change began reshaping industries, Nestlé took a bold stance on sustainability. It pledged to make its packaging 100% recyclable or reusable by the end of the decade. It also invested in renewable energy, efficient logistics, and cleaner production methods. In some countries, Nestlé factories began operating entirely on renewable power, a remarkable step for such a massive operation. The company's leadership understood that sustainability wasn't a choice anymore, it was a duty. Consumers were demanding accountability, and governments were tightening regulations. Nestlé saw these challenges not as threats but as opportunities to lead. By innovating faster than competitors, it could set new industry standards and strengthen its reputation as a responsible brand. One of Nestlé's most innovative achievements during this period was its work in food science. The company began exploring personalized nutrition, food tailored to individual health needs. This concept was revolutionary. By combining genetics, data analytics, and dietary science, Nestlé aimed to create products that could help prevent disease and improve well-being. It was no longer just a food company. It was becoming a health and wellness pioneer. Nestlé Health Science, a division launched to explore these possibilities, marked a turning point. Through this arm, Nestlé began producing medical nutrition products that supported patients with specific needs, such as those recovering from surgery or managing chronic illness. It was a move that blurred the line between food and medicine, showing the world that nutrition could be a form of healing. As digital technology transformed every aspect of life, Nestlé adapted quickly. The company built digital ecosystems that connected farmers, distributors, and consumers in real time. It used artificial intelligence to analyze consumer preferences and predict future trends. Online platforms allowed Nestlé to engage directly with customers, understand their feedback, and develop products based on real demand instead of assumptions.